Well, good morning. Wow, that's didn't wake you up. I don't know what will. So good to have all of you with us today. We're about 5 minutes late, so we're going to get started here. Got an exciting day planned. Before we get into our speakers, though, we'd like to go ahead and thank a few of those who were able to be a part of this event today and make it possible. Regina Whitslett and Joseph Cannon with ABC, who are part of our financial supporters. Let's give them a round of applause for the support they gave for this event today. Thank you. We also would like to thank wholeheartedly Jermaine Galloway. He did a lot on his side to get here today and work with us. I'd like to give him a round of applause. Our keynote speaker, Jermaine Galloway. Did a lot of opportunity to hear him today before that. And we also have quite a few Chill members, our high school students. If all of our high school students could stand, I'd like to give them a round of applause for being with us today. Thank you for our Chill members supporting us. Thank you. Have a seat. And also, all of our Hay members. If I can have every Hay member stand, see how many we got in this room. If you're a Hay member, if you could stand, please. And give them a round of applause. Thank you for being here today as well. Our opening speaker for today's event is Mary Powell. She's actually a local from Axton, Virginia. She's a watercolor artist, and she's known for her paintings of flowers. But today we're going to be able to hear the story behind the artist, and we'd like to now welcome Mary Powell. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes up.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Mary Powell. I've lived in Axton for 8 years, and we came here to help with my husband's parents, help take care of them. Before that, we lived in Concord, North Carolina for 3 years, and before that, we were in Texas. And it was while we were in Texas, my son was 18 years old. His name is David, and he worked at night. One night, one morning he came home from work, and it was on a Saturday. He got home about 8 o'clock in the morning, went to bed, slept until about 5, got up, took a shower. Saturday night, going to go out with his friends. He had 2 very good friends. One was still in high school, and the other one was out of high school and also worked at night. So David went over to Derek's house, or apartment, and they stayed up all night, played video games, you know, hung out. The kid that was still in high school, he slept off and on. You know, he wasn't used to this staying up all night business. The next morning, it was a Sunday morning, and they decided that they were going to go to breakfast. So David was the only one with the car. So they all got in the car. It was, like I said, it was 7:30. They were driving on a road that the speed limit was 45. They drove through a green light, and underneath the green light, while he was under the light, a car came off of the interstate and hit right on David's door. The police said that he was killed instantly. I got a copy of the medical examiner's report, the autopsy report, and it said that one of the valves in his heart had been ruptured because the door came in and hit him in the chest. So it ruptured his heart valve, and he bled out immediately. He also had a head injury. He had a broken left arm. I think there were some other internal injuries. I think most moms don't order an autopsy report for their son or for their child after they've been killed in a drunk driving incident. But for me, I had to know what happened. I had to know everything that had happened to him before he died. His best friend that was sitting in the front seat beside him told me that when the car hit, they were all laughing, they were having a good time. The car hit, and David immediately slumped over on Brian. And when the car stopped, Brian was like, he pushed David off though. He was like, dude, he got out of the car and he was mad, because they had this accident. Then he looked back in the car and he saw David was still slumped over. So he got back in the car and he set David up. And David began to have spasms or seizures. And he was in the process of dying. And his best friend had to sit there and watch him die. He said there was foam coming out of his mouth, and he was making a gurgling noise. When I got up that morning, it was about 8 o'clock, and Brian, his mother called me, and she said, do you know where the boys are? And I said, yeah, they're over at Derek's house, playing video games. And she said, I just got a phone call from a woman who said that Brian had been in an accident and that he was okay, he was going to the hospital, and she just wanted to let me know. And I said, I don't believe that. That's just too weird. Well, David didn't have a cell phone, he had a pager, so I called his pager. Didn't get a response. So Brian's mom said, I'm going to start calling the emergency rooms, see if I can find out anything. So I said, okay. I went upstairs, I took a shower. I thought, well, if I was going to have to be at the hospital, I wanted to at least be clean and, have my hair fixed, but I won't put on makeup just in case. I mean, I don't know, I have no idea why or how I was thinking these things. She called me back and she said David was at a hospital that's called HEB. This was in Fort Worth, Texas. And I said, okay. And she said, I asked how David was doing and they didn't tell me. And I said, okay. So I called the hospital, the emergency room, and I said, this is Mary Powell, I'm David Finch's mother. I heard he was in an accident. And the nurse said, hold on just a minute. So another nurse got on the phone and she said, you need to come down here. And I said, is he okay? She said, you need to come down here. And I said, well, is he okay? And she said, do you know how to get here? And by then I'm thinking, okay, this is not good. But still, the possibility that David was dead was not, it was just unimaginable. So I got a hold of my husband. He was out in the yard washing the car, and our older daughter was at a friend's house, so we had to call her, get her to come home. We got dressed, we got in the car, we were driving to the hospital, which was only like 15 minutes away. We got to the hospital and we walked into the emergency room. I'm giving you details because I want y'all to be able to know exactly what a parent goes through when something like this happens. We walked into the emergency room, and the first guy that we saw, he was a tech. I don't think he was a nurse, but I said, we're the Powells, and we're looking for our son David Finch. And he said, oh, come with me. So he took us straight back and through a door and into the emergency room department, but it was the back department. And we went through a door that said patient family room. And he said, wait here, doctor will be with you in just a minute. And still I'm thinking, we walked in the room and I told my husband, I said, surely this is not what it looks like. He said, no, not necessarily. This could, it could be okay. So just probably 30 seconds. A doctor, a patient advocate, and a clergy came into the room. We all sat down. And the doctor said, you know that David was in a car accident? And we said, yes. And he said, he did not survive. And I've seen that on TV. That's how they say it on TV. He did not survive. They don't use the word dead or killed. They say he did not survive. I guess they think that for some reason that lessens the impact, but it doesn't. I mean, you know what that means. So immediately I'm thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is not happening. And I said, I want to see him. And the doctor said, you can see him, but you have to know that there aren't really any visible outside signs, you know, of that he's dead. He had some scratches on his face from the glass, and he had a tube in his throat. And they said they had to leave the tube in because once they insert the tube, the only one that can take it out is the autopsy, is the medical examiner. So we went into the room, my husband and I, and there's a hospital room, and David is laying on the hospital bed, and he had a gown on, and he had a sheet up to his chest, and his arms were outside, and he had the tube down his throat, and he had cuts across his face, just small cuts, and he was starting to get a little bit blue, but I thought, you know, this just can't be, it just can't be real. Still, I'm arguing with myself. You know, I mean, I'm seeing him, I'm crying, I'm thinking, oh my God, my son. I touched him, and when I touched him, you know, that's when you can tell. I mean, a dead person feels one way, and that's dead. So my husband and I walked back to the family room, and now we had to call our kids. And we had a daughter that was 16, and a little girl that was 5. And my husband called. I asked him to call, so he called home, and he talked to Aaron, the 16-year-old, and told Aaron, you need to get up to the hospital. And Aaron said, how is he? How is he? I mean, Aaron, she was already hysterical. You know, tell me. And Chip said, my husband said, David's dead. And Aaron took the phone and threw it across the room, and my 5-year-old was standing right beside her, so that was how she found out that David was dead, by seeing her sister's reaction, which was incredibly traumatic in itself. After we had called all of our family at the hospital, there were several police officers who came up to us, who had come to the hospital because they heard that David had been killed. And they came up to us and said, we just want you to know that we're very sorry that, you know, this thing, you know, even though it happens and we hate that it happens a lot more than people realize, and we just wanted you to know how sorry we are. That meant a lot. It meant a lot that these policemen came to talk to us. I called my mom. She was the first person I called. And she just immediately started screaming, just hysterically. So I said, okay, Mom, I gotta go. So then I called David's father, and I told him, and he immediately started screaming. And I'm still just walking around. Now I'm kind of going into that automatic pilot mode, you know, where you know that there are things that you have to do, even though you're not quite sure what they are. I asked about David being an organ donor. They said he could not be an organ donor because it was too late. His organs had already been shut down for too long, but that he could be a tissue donator. So we agreed to that, and what they did was they took the skin that was behind his legs, on his arms, the bones from his arms, his eyes, the veins in his legs. I think that's all. So once the medical examiner came and took David away, it took about 4 hours, I guess, for all of this to happen, the whole time that we're in the hospital. Because I just couldn't leave until David left, until they came and they got David. We went home, had all the family come the next day, and then we had to sit down and write the obituary. And writing your son's obituary is just so surreal. We had to get out the newspaper and look at all the obituaries that were in the newspaper to get some kind of idea of how to do it. But when you're writing an obituary for an older person, for a parent or an aunt or uncle or whatever, grandparent, you kind of know, what you're going to say and where you're going to go. But with David, it was just so different because his life had been so short. I want to show you these are the clothes that David was wearing. This is his shirt. And obviously they had to cut it off of him. These are his pants. This is what he's wearing in that photo. These clothes. His boxers. I know y'all want to see those. His socks. And his Converse. And one of these Converse ended up across the street. And nobody knows how it ended up across the street, but that's where they found it. I keep these clothes to show people because to me this is probably one of the most powerful things that you will remember from me talking today. On a personal level, for me, losing my son or living through the death of my son has changed me on a cellular level. And now there are actually studies that have come out that have said that parents that lose a child or experience the death of a child, whether it's a traumatic death like David's was, or whether it's through sickness or illness, they are changed on a cellular level. You're not the same person. I will never be the same person. And the person I feel the most sorry for is my little girl, the one that was 5 when David died, and she's 16 now, or 17 now. She went through several grief camps right after David's death. And this was one of the comments that she made. There are things I wonder about. I would like to ask someone these questions. Why did David die? How did his body stop working? After we buried David in Georgia, and after we went the first time to see his stone after it had been set up, we came home and I asked my daughter, my baby girl, I said, "Are you sad about seeing David's grave today?" She said, "No, not really." I said, "You're not?" She said, "No." She said, "Are you?" And I said, "Yeah." That was pretty hard. And she said, "But Mom, you have to realize that that was just David's skin and hair and his glasses in that grave, because David's really in heaven." And I thought, okay, that was a good thing to say. I don't know how to impress upon people the importance of not drinking and driving, except to say you have to make that decision before you go out, or before you have the drink at home and then go out. You have to be committed not to drink and drive. because this is what happens, and it happens all the time. And there are so many parents here in Henry County that have gone through this same thing that I've gone through. I don't know how we continue to walk around and talk to people and act like we're normal, because we're not normal. We never will be normal. There's always a part of us that's different. I'm really honored to be asked to speak to you today, because I hope that some of you will take away from this a little bit about David. He was 2 weeks away from moving from Texas to live in Utah with his aunt, and he was going to learn how to make straw bale houses, if you can imagine. He was one of the kindest people. He was my only son, and he was my oldest child. When he came home from school, he would ask me, "Mom, how's your day? You doing okay? How you feeling? You want me to get you something?" I miss him every day, every single day, and it never changes. And I just wanted to share David's story with you. Thank you.
Mary, we thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. We really appreciate you being here and Maddie being here and really showing the nightmare that y'all had to live because of drinking and driving.
I did want to say something I forgot to tell y'all. The man that killed David was sentenced to 8 years in prison for vehicular homicide, and he did spend 7 years in prison before they let him out. So I just wanted y'all to know that sometimes people are held accountable.
Thank you so much. Now we want to hear the youth point of view on alcohol use by teens in our community, and we have some CHIL members here that will introduce themselves and give you a briefing on what's going on in our community.
Hi, I'd like to welcome you to the Piedmont Alcohol Awareness Conference. I'm a member of CHIL. CHIL stands for Communities Helping Improve Local Lives. I'm Hannah LaPrade. I go to Martinsville High School.
And I'm Brooke Mason, and I'm a sophomore at Martinsville.
Cassie Age, I'm also a sophomore at Martinsville.
I'm Jordan Cochran, and I'm also a sophomore at Martinsville High School.
CHIL has chosen to be a part of this national movement to focus attention on youth and alcohol problems in our community.
Alcohol is the primary contributor to the leading causes of adolescent death in the United States. For example, car crashes, accidents, and suicide.
Between 12 and 20% of all alcohol consumed in the United States is used by people under the age of 21.
Age of first use. We want to show you that the age a person first uses alcohol does have long-term effects.
Facts, facts, facts. Age of first use can trigger long-term alcoholism.
Not only is underage drinking harmful, it is also expensive to the youth and to the public.
Drinking and driving. Underage drinking cost the citizens of Virginia $1.3 billion in 2007. These costs include medical care, work loss, pain, and suffering associated with the multiple problems resulting from the use of alcohol.
New science has revealed that the frontal lobes of our brain are responsible for decision making. They aren't fully developed until the age of 25. Alcohol can do serious drinking to this development. Parents, which of these brains would you want your child to have? The bright red is a normal, good brain. Dull is a brain that has alcohol effects.
Last month, Chill members took to the streets to survey the community on the issue of alcohol and youth. We found that there are about 135 convenience stores in our community. 125 sell alcohol. We found no signs stating the legal age to buy alcohol in any of the stores we visited.
In 2009, we found that many of these stores were plastered with alcohol marketing items, from stand-up racing, floor and wall posters, blow-up bottles, and figures of baseball hats. Outside, there were no signs because it is illegal in the state of Virginia to use outdoor advertising. When conducting the survey last month, the results were moving in the right direction. Advertisements were restricted to near the beer section, and very few were below adult alcohol.
We also had a focus group which helped the Chill membership decide what the top problems our community is facing against underage alcohol use.
Some of the contributing factors to youth and alcohol are the youth acceptance of drinking. Everyone thinks that since everyone's drinking, they can just go ahead and join and drink. Another thing is adult acceptance of underage drinking and adults providing alcohol. Alcohol is easy to get. The code of silence among youth, such as saying that you're going to drink, but don't tell anybody because I'll get in trouble. So no one tells anybody. And alcohol is not locked in parents' houses.
Now let's talk about what we were doing and what we feel needs to be done in our area. These strategies we will be talking about have been researched and are regarded as effective ways to lower underage drinking in communities across the nation.
School strategies. We're going to set up displays in our local high schools and collaborate with our Yes 9th graders to educate incoming freshmen.
Commercial strategy. Continue to support compliance check programs. A compliance check is a tool to identify alcohol establishments that are selling alcohol to you. Continue to do Project Sticker Shock to educate those over 21 not to provide alcohol. Provide local stores with cleans and signs referring to have to be 21 to purchase.
The Project Sticker Shop is where us Chill members, we went out and went to grocery stores and convenience stores and put that sticker on alcohol products.
Strategies aimed at reducing social public availability of alcohol. We are proposing more sobriety checks in the community. Underage drinking is not only a problem on prom night. And sobriety checks are where they check to make sure that you are not under the influence of alcohol, like before or after school events or anything like that.
What adults can do. Okay, adults, this is what you can do to help the program. You can stop providing alcohol for teens. It is unsafe, unhealthy, and illegal. You need to have better understanding of the alcohol laws and not distributing to underage drinkers. Talk to your children about underage drinking and listen. The most important thing you can do is listen to your child. And just because kids are drinking at home does not mean that it is safe.
Okay, youth, this is what youth like us can do to help. Know the Virginia alcohol laws and the health risks so they will be aware of the laws and consequences of underage drinking. Choose friends that don't drink. Get involved in after-school programs and activities. In other words, sober chilling.
We as CHILL members see that underage drinking is a problem for our peers and community. It costs each one of us financially, but most importantly, the young lives who are cut short cost all of us way more.
We are asking for our community's support, parents, educators, law enforcement, and others in reducing underage drinking and to realize the problem it can produce.
For contact information, you can contact Katie Conley at Piedmont Community Services.
Thank you for having us here today. We greatly appreciate this opportunity to present this information. We would also like to thank our principal, Mr. Dixon, for letting us be able to come. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome our panel members here today. We have Dr. Gordon Green. He's Director of the West Piedmont Health District, Department of Health. Sheriff Lane Perry, our Henry County Sheriff's Office. Lonnie Favero, Piedmont Community Services, Prevention Manager. Amy Scott, Director of Student Services for Henry County Schools. Brooke Mason is a CHILL member for Martinsville High School. And Joseph Cannon is agent in charge for the Virginia Department of ABC, the Alcohol Beverage Control Board. I said he first. Dr. Green, he's Director of West Piedmont Health District of the Department of Health. And to moderate our panel is our keynote speaker, we put him to work today, is Jermaine Galloway, all the way from Boise, Idaho. So let's welcome our panel and Jermaine.
So every time, we're still on, okay, every time I come speak, there's one very, very important question I have to address first. Can we turn this up just a little bit? So there's one question I have to address first. What do you guys think that question might be that I always get from you? How tall am I? Good job. All right. So we're going to get that out of the way. I'm 6'9", okay? So I know you guys were thinking it, so now we got that out of the way. All right. So obviously we're all here to talk about underage drinking and substance abuse. And we have all these panel members up here. Katie and I spent some time trying to figure out who should be up here to give you guys a good variety of people to ask questions. So we have some canned questions. We have some stuff that'll get up here to get this started off. But what I encourage you to do is, if you have a question, ask it. I'll bring the mic over to you, so I embarrass you a little bit, so you have to come through the speaker system. But ask it. This is the time. We have all the stakeholders together. We have everybody in one room. Let's round table. Let's talk about things. Let's figure out what we can do to address the problems in your community. Even though I'm from Boise, I'm actually from California, but I've lived in Boise for about 14 years. And the one common theme is we all have problems with, not us, but we all have problems with alcohol and substance abuse in every community. It looks a little bit different depending on where you go, but we all have the same problems. People are smoking dope, people are, whether using cocaine, meth, ecstasy, all these different things that are out there. Drinking excessively, DUI-related accidents, DUI-related injuries. People getting drunk, falling out of windows. All these different things that are occurring all over the country. We're all dealing with the same thing. So when you look at something like this, and when we're sitting here, you know, the one challenge that I would give you is don't just come to a training like today and sit here and hear some things and go, man, that's really sad that that occurred. Oh, darn, that's a shame. And then go on about your day. Don't do that, because too many of us do that already. I go to trainings, I go to a lot of trainings. I do a lot of trainings and I attend a lot of trainings. And I see a lot of people just walk out of the room going, yeah, that was good, and they do nothing. They do nothing after the training. And I'm not saying that they're lazy or they don't want to or their heart's not in the right spot. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is it's difficult and it's hard. Here, welcome to MC, right? I didn't embarrass her, sorry. So it's difficult and it's hard. It's, you know, for some of you, you're going to be the first person in your community, in your school, in your area, your police department, to try to get something going. It's not easy. I promise you that. It isn't easy. You're going to run into obstacles. You're going to run into some frustrations. You're going to run into a lot of different things. But look at the flip side if we don't do it. Okay? Ultimately, it's death and destruction if we don't do it. Someone has to start it. Someone had to start this conference today. Someone, for the programs that are going in your agencies already, someone had to start it. So I encourage you, when you leave here, take a couple of things. You're going to learn something today. All right? You might not learn everything, but you're going to learn something. I promise you, you're going to learn something. So take a couple of those tools, take them back, and do something with them. Because if you do something, you're doing more than you did before you came here. Okay? So do something. And as we get going here on the panel and talking about a bunch of the different things you're going to hear, and some of these people are going to throw out some information for you that will lead, you know, it will kind of spark something in your mind and lead you to go, you know, I can do that. I can help you with that. I can help Joe Cannon get something going in this community. There's a lot of different things I can do. So that's what I challenge you to do. And we'll talk more, because I'm going to be in front of you quite a bit today, so we'll talk a little bit more. So, getting into the panel, some of the fun questions we have for you. I actually picked on Brooke before we started today, and for one of the first questions I asked her was, I said, hey, how do you feel about speaking in front of people? She said, I'm a little bit nervous. All right, so we have to smile while she's talking to us, okay? Because she's nervous, but she's hiding it very, very well. She did really well earlier, so good job. But one of the questions that I really want to start with, especially laying the foundation out and kind of getting this whole day going, is having Brooke kind of give us the mentality, especially of the youth, the mentality of the local youth. What's going on? What are they doing? What are they seeing? What are they thinking? And what are they talking about? And my favorite, what are they saying about us? Okay? Meaning us, the adults in this room. What are they saying about us? What do we know? What don't we know? How much are we doing? How much are we not doing? So that's the first question I'll pose to you. Let's see here. Oh, that is on. Move this a little closer. There you go. Go ahead.
At Martinsville High School, a lot of the students do drink on weekends, and they drink during the week at school also. In some cases, they bring water bottles filled with vodka, or I've seen Sprite bottles with vodka and something else mixed. And they bring it to school, think, oh, I'll never get caught. And a lot of the students don't get caught. They just think, the teacher sees the water bottle, they don't take it because we can have water in class. And to me, a lot of it has to come from the home situation. If the parents are accepting of giving the kids alcohol and they will be glad to give the student alcohol, it's a lot of where they're not disciplined and they can drink. It's okay to drink. And another thing is, at school there is a tennis practice wall in the back parking lot. And it's a big green wall, you can't miss it. So a lot of the students will go behind that wall before or after school and smoke weed. And also last year we had a huge problem of students skipping and going to the baseball field, the baseball practice field behind the tennis court, and getting high and drinking and smoking and whatever. And a lot of it, they didn't get caught last year, but this year they're cracking down, thankfully, and stopping a lot of that.
So, is there a fear among the students of being caught?
No.
And why
They're
is that?
like, they just think, oh, I'll never get caught, it's okay. And they're getting caught this year and they're paying the consequences.
Yeah, and that's my next question. Amy, what are those consequences?
Well, it depends on if you caught with alcohol on campus at school, you're going to have a disciplinary hearing. You're going to have to come up front in front of the school board, and you're going to have it's basically your portfolio brought. Believe it or not, from 6th grade and up with our database, every discipline offense that you've had comes to the table. You have a group of 4 people looking at you for the first time, not knowing you as a person, but what they're seeing is your grade history from 6th grade and up. They're looking at your discipline history from 6th grade and up, your attendance history, and everything that you've ever done is just out there on the table, and these people are looking at you, not only in the offense that you have been found guilty of that day, you're also having to answer for some other decisions. And the reason why they look at the whole portfolio is to see what kind of services this student or this family may need to help this child be more successful in the future. Our job as a school system is not to be punitive and kick children out of school. Sometimes we do not have a choice. There are certain offenses that we do not have a choice with. But our job is to educate and educate the family and do what we can to help this child or this student. Now, let's start making more positive choices. What can we do to help? And it's a partnership with the community. We usually use some of our outside agencies as well to help us because we don't have everything we need. But yes, there are consequences. If you have alcohol on campus and you're caught with alcohol on campus, a minimum of a 10-day suspension, disciplinary hearing, and you're looking at a long-term suspension or an expulsion depending on if you distribute it or not.
So you talked about family a little bit.
Yes.
And this is kind of a leading question, especially coming from a law enforcement officer who deals with family a lot. How is that working out for you? Are you getting a lot of resistance from families? Do they support what you guys do?
It depends on the family. A lot of times it's everyone else's fault. And a lot of times you will have families sitting there saying, but so-and-so does this. You have people sometimes not taking responsibility for their own actions, and then you have the families that do sit there, you know what, my child messed up. You know what, we messed up. What can we do to make this situation better, or what can we do to start making more positive choices? It's going to depend on the family.
So when you have a family, we'll talk, what percentage would you say out of all the kids you deal with, as far as parents, give you resistance?
You have to realize the children that I deal with predominantly are those that have 10 days or more, so I am in the minority of the percentage of children I deal with. We have 7,500 children counting preschoolers. Children that have 10-day suspensions or less, most of their discipline offenses are going to happen at the school level, and the parents are not going to contact me. The percentage of parents that I'm going to deal with, for example, we had 110 disciplinary hearings last year. Of those 110 disciplinary hearings that we had resistance 60%.
60%. Okay. So 60% resistance, and do you think that's because, you talked about it a little bit already, do you think that's because lack of knowledge, or naive, want to just close their eyes to it, or just don't really think it's a big issue?
A lot of it is lack of education overall. You have the perception that everyone does it, even with some of the family members, or my child wouldn't do this. Most of it is lack of education, lack of knowledge of what truly is going on.
Okay, thank you. Well, and that leads me into Bonnie. Why don't we talk about what is actually going on the educational end? Oh, we got that for you. On the educational and educational side, what we're actually doing, and then one of the things we'll talk about is how we can help you out with that. Thank you.
Thank you. We provide prevention programming in all of Martinsville and Henry County schools, and I wanted to have the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what we do. We provide the Too Good for Drugs program to elementary school children, and that's not just a program that says don't do drugs. It's a program that helps kids to learn how to make friends, how to make wise decisions, how to set goals for themselves. One of the goals is to raise their self-esteem, gives them an opportunity to interact with the other kids in their class and to talk in front of everybody. So it does a lot more than just say, just use drugs, but it also educates them on the 3 gateway drugs, which are tobacco, alcohol, and marijuana, and tells them what those things can do to them and why they shouldn't use them. So that's a 10-week program that we provide to all the 5th and 6th grade, or 4th and 5th grade students in Henry County and 5th and 6th grade in Martinsville City. We also are there in the middle schools and the high schools for kids that are having issues in their homes or with friends and problems like that, so that they have somebody they can talk to that can maybe give them some guidance. We're not therapists, we're there in a prevention role to really just talk to them and give them some good coping skills, give them some resistance skills so they know how to say no to peer pressure, and give them some alternatives. And when we discover that somebody might have a problem, then we refer them on to more in-depth services. We also are providing the FACE-IT program for Henry County schools, and the FACE-IT program is designed to be there for parents and their youth. When the youth get a disciplinary action, they're referred to our FACE-IT program, and the parents and their kids have to come to the program for 6 weeks. It's an hour and a half, 1 night a week for 6 weeks, and the parents learn about the adolescent brain and what alcohol and other drugs do to the brain, and they learn about some communication skills that they can work with their kids, and some strategies for addressing when limits are broken. So what can they do for discipline strategies? And at the same time, their youth are attending classes so that they can learn what the drugs are doing to their body and to their brain and make a difference for that. One thing that we could really use some help with is getting some parents involved in our parenting programs. We offer parenting programs free for the entire community. We have a great program that we offer for 20 weeks. It's called Creating Lasting Family Connections. There's flyers on the back table. That program invites families to come, families with middle school age children, to come and participate for 20 weeks. We provide a dinner every week. There's a program for the parents, a program for the adolescents, and there's childcare for younger children. And we take them bowling or to the movies or some other fun activities in between each 5 sessions, and it's all free. And believe it or not, I raised 4 children. I'd have been thrilled to death if somebody would cook dinner for me once a week. and I could take my kids somewhere for the evening, and they would be in one area and I'd be in another. That would have been a great blessing to me. But we have a really hard time filling up those sessions. So one thing that you could do is help get the word out about that and let people know that this is available in our community, and it's a real protective factor as far as substance abuse is concerned.
Okay. And so we've heard from the school side and now the parent side. Now I want to go to the law enforcement side, which of course is always my favorite side. So I'd like to open it up to the sheriff, and why don't we have you talk about what you're seeing, especially on the weekends at night, some of the things that maybe some of our other personnel up here aren't necessarily seeing. You're taking off the floor there, so you're not going to get too far.
I like being able to see, but I'll stand up so people can see. I think on the weekend, as we heard Brooke say very well, and I'm glad we have representation by the youth here. It doesn't take place just necessarily on the weekends. The ones that have become dependent on it, that have an attitude and demeanor, they're going to get it. It's going on all the time. Weekends is probably a little more prevalent, kind of like most people's time, let your hair down, do what you want to, go party. Probably a little bit more so, but I've been thinking coming to this today, I'm a firm believer in leadership. If you want to change something, there has to be leadership. Once again, Brooke spoke on it very well. These young people that start drinking, these are the same adults that we arrest later on for DUIs. They're the same ones having children. It's hard to tell a child, you leave the alcohol alone and you go do this while I knock back a cold one. Pretty stupid mentality. You can't tell them to leave it alone when they're seeing other people do it. I do want to give one example. one of the jobs that I had before law enforcement, I was about 20 years old at the time, worked at Pluma. Young man I worked with, it was his first job out of high school, so he's underage. We worked in the shipping room, but we were right beside packing, and one of the men that worked in packing, he was talking to me and another boy. I can't tell you what alcohol tastes like. I drank a drop in my life, and thank you for it. But he was talking to me and another young boy that didn't drink, and he said, I had to quit buying alcohol for that other boy after I found I was buying him 2.5 gallons of liquor a week. Now that wasn't what he was also drinking in beer. But this man who wasn't supposed to be buying it for him to begin with, his conscience got the best of him. Some years later, after I was in law enforcement and I've arrested a good number of DUIs, but a dependency problem had been started, and I arrested this guy. And once again, I've arrested a good number of DUIs in my time, and he's probably in the top 5 of memorable DUIs. I recently attended his funeral. It wasn't just health issues, but we looked at prevalence, the ease of the young people to get it. I think some of the target areas is people who will buy it for them, to be cool, to be their friend. And I'm sad to say some people that will exhibit bad leadership to be their friend when the more positive leadership needs to be exalted. Some years ago, I helped one of the other investigators work a case right over the hill here. There was a man that would buy alcohol for young women. They had come in and take their clothes off, and he was videotaping them on hidden cameras. But these are some of the things that I've seen, and it is a totality of the circumstances problem that the parents need to set the leadership for the young children. If we're telling them not to drink, we need to set the example in front of them. And I hope I didn't get sidetracked.
That's great. So Sheriff, what can this group do as far as addressing the parents? You said obviously we need to change the mentality in regards to the parents. What can people in this room do to help change that mentality?
I think we have to get the parents to realize their consequences of the behavior of their children as well. And as the example I gave, when they sit at their gatherings with their friends and the children see them get red-faced and glassy-eyed and slurred speech, they need to understand that these consequences, how can you tell a young child, don't do as I'm doing? It is one of the most ludicrous behaviors or mentalities I've seen. I think that's one of the stumbling blocks. The prevalence of the ease of people to get alcohol to young people, and like I said, it opens them for exploitation. It also is a means for people to make money off of young people who want to do something illegal anyway. But I think leadership is one of the issues.
Okay, thank you. And sometimes we focus a lot on alcoholism and death. Understand one thing, most people don't die. Most people don't, but they get injured, they get significantly injured, they get paralyzed, or they injure someone else, or they get pregnant, or they get an STD. There's a lot of different things that also come out of this. So sometimes we focus on, 1,700 college-age kids die every year from alcohol-related deaths. So we say, okay, 1,700, well, 1,700 is not that bad. No, it's a few 100,000 that get hurt that don't die. But then we just say 1,700. We have to look at the broader scope of things. Someone gets drunk, puts their fist through a window, tears some ligaments up, gets some more damage, gets some injuries. That's the other things we need to be looking at. Because we have a lot of people every single day across this country that are getting hurt, every single day. And for me, especially policing the Boise area and policing the university area for Boise State University, being over there, I take it personally. When I found out that someone gets a T-bone DUI-related accident, it was a student or something like that, these groups that I talk to and I work with, I take it personally. Obviously, I can't affect all their behavior. I'm not sitting at the table with for Thanksgiving or anything like that, but can I do more? And I look at myself. I don't look at them going, man, well, why do these people do what they do? I take a step back and I look at myself. What else can I be doing? What other programs can I be adding? Who else do I need to be talking to? Do I need to be changing city and county and state codes? Do I need to be talking to the neighboring agency because our kids are going over there and drinking and partying and then driving back? What do I need to be doing? And that's something, again, for all of you to think about when you go back to your agencies. What else can you do? Is the neighboring agency doing something a lot better than what you're doing? Just steal their idea, that's what I would do. So just think about what else can you be doing. The sheriff hit on something really, really good. He started talking about adult providers and the people who are providing our kids with youth. So I wanted to open up to Joe Cannon and have him talk a little bit about kind of the culture and what's going on with adult providers, also what's going on here and what he's seeing in this area.
Okay. Just going right off of what the sheriff was saying, I can't agree with him more. You know, adults play a major role in this, and it's often, you know, not even taken serious. There's a code on the books. I have to address this one code to where parents aren't allowed to provide alcohol to their children in their homes only. And that's the key, in their homes only. There were some changes years ago where the code used to say any adult could provide alcohol to any underage person in a private residence. That's been scaled back to their private residence only. And you know, I always say that although parents provide alcohol to their children, they think it's safe. What happens after the fact? What happens down the road? What happens when you start talking about if a child starts drinking beer before the age of 13, they're more likely to become chemically dependent as opposed to waiting until 21 where it's only 7% chance that they're going to become chemically dependent to alcohol. So whenever I talk to the parents, I try and get them to understand, while there's a law on the books, you're hurting your child more than you think. You know, and what's going to happen when you're not at home? The kids are still going to go to the refrigerators, they're still going to go to the beer closet, they're still going to do all these things to continue drinking. Just like what Brooke was saying, they're going to start taking alcohol to school because why? They're becoming chemically dependent at an early age, putting it in water bottles, going behind, would you say, the wall, the tennis practice wall, and drinking. You know, these are things that the parents really don't realize they're playing a major role in starting their children on the cycle of drinking alcohol and becoming chemically dependent to alcohol. You know, and of course it always leads to other issues, binge drinking, passing out, blacking out, and drinking and driving. Again, you know, you can drive in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I think at 15 and 8 months, I think it still is. Of course, if they've been drinking with their parents all along, they're going to start using, you know, start drinking and driving. So of course, we really don't like to look at those things, but that's the reality. They are getting it from their parents, they are getting it from friends, and they're getting it from siblings as well, brothers and sisters who really want to continue to be a brother and sister, or parents who want to be their child's friend. Be a parent first. I can't stress that enough. You have to be a parent first and enforce these alcohol laws. Make those tough decisions when you find that your children are drinking alcohol or are using marijuana or other drugs. What are the parts of the question, Don?
I think you covered it. Yeah. You got off on a little tangent there. You started rolling. So, no, I think you covered it. Good job, Joe. So for our final panelist, because we're running a few minutes behind also, I'm going to open it up to Dr. Green. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. What are you seeing and what can we do about it? We've had a lot of people talk about some of the different things that are going on. I think you can share with the group, what are you seeing in the system and what needs to be done? So now, not only talking about we have a problem, I think everybody in this room is here because we know we have a problem. What can we do?
You want me to solve this problem?
I want you to solve the problem, yes. Yeah, you'll probably be on Dr. Phil next week if you have the best answer for it.
I might replace Dr. Phil.
There you go.
I sort of wear three hats as sitting up here. And the first is that, you know, I'm a father and a parent, and you know, fortunately my children have reached adulthood and, you know, are doing fairly well. Second thing was that I'm a family physician, and I was in practice in this community for about 12 years, and would see teams and you know, discuss these issues. And then the third thing is I'm now the director of the health department. Public health deals with problems from a community-wide perspective. So we don't do a lot of hands-on with regards to you know, substance abuse, alcoholism, these kinds of things in this community. You know, we are available, we're a resource. You know, we have people who are willing to go out and speak, but generally we don't do a hands-on thing, except that we deal with the consequences. So we do deal with the, you know, adolescents who are pregnant, the teen STIs, those kinds of things. And that's, I think, one of the saddest things that we deal with. From a public health perspective, again, we deal with the community and you know, health of the community from community-wide measures. So, for example, the drinking and driving laws are public health initiatives. The data that we get. And you're going to be exposed. I mean, everyone's going to be trotting out numbers. We've always heard lots of numbers. My mind is already sort of shut down and say, I don't want to hear any more numbers. But those numbers are collected by multiple organizations, but they're generally public health organizations. The Center for Disease Control in Atlanta is the big data collector in the U.S. And it's going to be interesting to see how they manage things with their the cutbacks that they are presumably going to get from the federal government. But we need that data, we need that information, and that's what they provide with us. What should we do? I think that the most important thing, I think, is talking early and talking often. So I don't think you can say to your children or the people you deal with once, say, don't drink, it's bad for you, and then move on. It's got to be early and it's got to be often. You've got to be reasonable. You can't trot out these horrible stories. The kids listen to them and they say, but I know so-and-so drinks and he doesn't have any problem, and I know there's adults who drink and they don't have any problems. And I don't buy into the stories. And so, making it, exaggerating for them to the point of making effect, it often, turns your audience off. So I would encourage you not to, get too far out there. So early and often, ask questions. What are you doing? But you can ask questions. What are you doing two ways? You can go, what are you doing? Or you can go, I'm really interested in what you're up to. Well, what's happening these days? What's going on in your life? And not being judgmental, but trying to be interested and informative. And then the final thing is that, I think if we all have self-esteem, whatever we do, we can move on from that. And so anything we can do to help people, help young people promote their self-esteem, and adults too. I mean, we need to help with our self-esteem. I think those are going to be the foundations on which everything else is going to work.
Well, the doctor hit on a couple of great points. Scare tactics do not work. Guys, do scare tactics work? Can I put that little crash car out in front of your school and all of a sudden you're going, wow, I'm never gonna do that because they get targeted. Does it work? They don't work. They don't work. Everyone will walk by and go, wow, that's interesting, that's terrible, that's horrible, and then they go on with their lives. Scare tactics don't work. So educating yourself, which we'll do here in a little bit, and even more after the break, educating yourself and educating your kids. And also helping your kids, giving them an opportunity to survive. What I mean by that is equipping them with the tools and abilities to survive. If you don't talk to your kids, just like the doctor was talking about alcohol and or drugs, someone else is going to. So they're going to hear it from you, or they're going to hear it from Joe Blow on the street corner. But they're going to hear it, and they're going to find out, and they're going to be offered dope, and they're going to be offered alcohol. These things are going to occur. We can promise you that. We know it's going to occur multiple times. So are they going to learn from us in this room, or the people who we train, or the parents who we teach, or are they going to learn from someone else? Interesting story. I have a young man, my son, 6th grader, and I have a 3rd grader. So my 6th grader is going right into that time, when you see all the data, he's going right into it now. He's in the middle school now, he's going all the way to where I know he's going to be offered dope, I know he's going to be offered alcohol, hopefully not this year, probably by the end of next year is what I would assume. And we have these conversations frequently, we have them all the time. And he sat through multiple of my presentations, knows about all the different stuff, so he knows, but we still talk about it. So last week, we were driving somewhere, I don't remember where we were going, but we were driving somewhere, I was taking him to school. And I look at him and I say, I'm going to drug test you, right? And he goes, huh? I said, I'm going to drug test you. You're going to start taking drug tests this year. And I've already told my wife, it's going to sit right on top of the refrigerator. So every time he goes in the fridge, he's looking right at it, right? So I said, and he just kind of looked at me like, really? I go, yeah. And I said, and before he could even comment, I said, this is why. I said, number one, I don't want you doing dope. I know you're going to be offered dope. Also, when anyone at your school or anyone on the street offers you dope, all you got to say is, Dad, drug test me. I can't do that. Put it all on me. All right? I'm giving him a tool to get out of it. Now, whether he uses it or not is going to be up to him. But I'm giving him a tool to get out of it. My dad's a cop. He drug tests me. There's no way. I can't do it. And that's the stuff you need to be thinking about. Do I think my kid's going to do dope? No, but most parents don't. And most parents whose kids did do dope didn't think they were going to do dope. So I'm not naive enough to know or to think that he's not going to be offered it, or there's a possibility that he won't use. But I'm going to do all I can to make sure I prevent that. So when you're thinking outside the box and thinking of these things, again, he's in 6th grade. I'm not as worried about it until he hits about 8th grade, but why not start now? And then just keep it fair. I said, your brother's gonna get drug tested too. He's in 3rd grade, but just keep it fair. So it just makes it simple and it makes it easy, because then, and of course I'm talking to my 3rd grade son, Logan, and I'm like, hey, you're getting drug tested. He's all cool, great. You know, he can care less, right? But again, giving them the tools. So when you're thinking about this and when you're working with parents, and when, you know, a lot of the people on the panel address issues with the parents. So when you're working with parents, it's something to be thinking about. Everybody's a little bit different. We can't reach every single person the same way. If there was one program that worked, number one, we'd all be billionaires if we thought about it, but we'd all be using it. If there was one program that worked, everybody'd be doing it. If there was one program to keep kids from drinking alcohol, we'd all be doing it, okay? There isn't. It does not exist. It never will exist. So what we can do right now is figure out multiple programs, multiple different ways, a multifaceted approach to attack all these problems. And that's what we need to be thinking about. So a program that might work here might not work in Boise, Idaho, might not work in Sacramento, California. We don't know, okay? Most likely a program that would work for her might not work for him, all right? So it's that diverse, and that's why you have to hit it multiple different ways. For some kids, it is their parents. For some kids, if they fail their parents, that is a life-ending thing for them. Some kids have no respect for their parents at all, and what they want to do is fail their parents because they don't want to be anything like them. So you need to think of different ways to address it. For some kids, it's enforcement. Some it's getting suspended from school. You need to think about different ways of how we're going to address all these problems. So right now, we're running a little bit behind, but we'll take a 10-minute break, get set up for the next speaker, who I heard is really, really good, and then we'll get going. So thanks, guys.